Hi guys and welcome. Today I'm going to be trying on $885 worth of foundation. It is none other than the Prairie. Now you might have thought from the thumbnail that this is clickbait, but both of these foundations together, that's how much it costs in New Zealand dollars. I'll also give you the prices of each in US dollars as well. Now spoiler alert, I love both of these foundations and I've had them for about at least 2 years, probably nearly 3 years. So I've worn both of these foundations a lot in the summer and in the winter. Those of you that haven't seen my other videos before, I am 55 years old, so I have mature skin, and I also have really oily skin as well. Now it is autumn here in New Zealand and normally it is cooled down quite a bit, but that doesn't seem to be happening, maybe in the next week or two. So the days, especially when it gets towards midday, it's still getting really warm and sometimes it's still a little bit humid as well. So the first foundation, this is the Prairie Skin Caviar Concealer and Foundation, and this has SPF 15 in it. This one is made in Switzerland and it has a shelf life of 12 months from date of opening, but as I was saying, I've had this for at least 2 years. I think it is coming up towards 3 years, and it is just as good as the day that I purchased it. So in New Zealand this costs $465 and in US dollars it is $290. Now when you receive this foundation, it does come with a stand and also has a brush on it as well. Now I do find the brush quite stiff and I don't even know whether I've still got it anymore. I had a look around. I really just keep the foundation like this, and inside there is a little mirror, but also on the top there is the concealer, and this concealer is just absolutely beautiful, and it's about half a shade or a shade lighter than the foundation. Now the shade that I use in this and also the other Prairie foundation, it is NW30 and it is Honey Beige. Now on the US website it says that this comes in 16 shades, but that is really dependent on what country you're in. I think some countries have less than this. Now I find this shade works really well for me. There's also a shade 30N and that would probably be absolutely perfect, but we can't get that shade here in New Zealand, so the shade range does differ between countries. And before I talk a little bit more about the foundation, I'm just going to put on a primer, and I'm going to use the Chanel one today. That is the mattifying primer. If the weather was a bit cooler, then I'd probably reach for some of my other primers that I have. The Sisley one's very good. Also the Chanel Sublimage one is really beautiful as well. But since today it is going to get quite warm, then I think this is the perfect primer to go under this foundation. And that's the other thing with having these foundations for so long now, is that I have used them under all the primers that I've got. It works well under all the primers, and I've also had plenty of time to decide whether these foundations are as good as they say and whether they are worth the price. Now when it comes to the price, I don't really know whether any foundation is worth that. They are definitely very pricey, but I do love both of them. But I do favor one foundation over the other. Not that one's better than the other, but if I had to choose between the two, then there is one that I would go for more, and I'm going to tell you that one at the end of the video. So with this foundation, Prairie say it is a caviar infused cream foundation, and it is, they describe it as full coverage, and it has a dewy finish, and of course it has the concealer in it as well. And even though this can be a full coverage foundation, I tend to put it on so that it is probably a solid medium finish. It is really lovely. Now inside this foundation, so you got the concealer up top with a little flip top lid, and then when you unscrew it, inside is this little spatula, and you can see that it's not dripping off, and it definitely is a cream foundation. And before I purchased this, I wasn't too sure how it would work with my oily skin. Because it was cream, I thought it was going to be thick and it just wouldn't work with my oily skin, but it actually works really, really beautifully. So I'm just going to hold this up a little bit closer for you to take a look at and just show you the spatula up close as well. And as I was saying, you can see that it is quite thick. And I've just put some on the back of my hand and I'll blend it out so you can take a look. And as I was saying, this is the shade NW30 and it is called Honey Beige. So it feels really creamy, but for some reason it works just beautifully with my oily skin, and I think this foundation would work beautifully with all skin types. And the other La Prairie foundation, this is called the La Prairie Skin Caviar Essence in Foundation, and it is a cushion foundation. This one is made in Italy. The other one was made in Switzerland. For some reason, this is made in Italy. And this one has a shelf life of 6 months from date of opening, but it certainly lasts a lot longer than that. Now, also with this, you do get a refill with this. So together you do get the 30 mils of product. So with this one, they describe it as Caviar Infused Fluid Foundation. The other one they describe as a cream foundation. So this one hasn't got as much coverage as the cream one. This is a light towards medium type of coverage, and this is also really beautiful. I did forget to mention both foundations, they are quite heavily fragranced. I think the fragrance is really beautiful, and it probably does tend to linger a little bit, probably for a few minutes after you've put it on. So on the US website, this one comes in 8 shades. I don't even know whether there's 8 shades available here in New Zealand. So again, the shade range, it is dependent on which country you live in, but definitely less of a shade range than you've got with the other cream one. So the price of this foundation in New Zealand, it is $420, and in the US it is $255. Now with the cushion foundation, I think this one, it just feels in the hand, the packaging, a little bit more luxurious than this one here, the cream foundation. And inside you do have a generous size mirror, and this is easy to pop out. Like I said, it does come with a refill and really easy to pop out and put in the other one. This is the refill that I've got in here at the moment. So with this cushion, they say it gives more of a natural looking complexion, and this is also infused with the Caviar water. So I'll just hold that up close so you can take a look, and it has this netting here, so you press that to get the foundation out. Now they do have an applicator sponge that comes with this one, and when you open the refill there is a new one in there. I don't tend to use those. What I use is either a brush or a beauty blender, and for both of these foundations today I'm going to use a beauty blender. So let's put these foundations on. I've also got separate beauty blenders that I'll use for each of the foundations. So I'm going to start off with the left side of my face, and I'm going to start off with this one here. This is the one that they describe more as a cream, and I will use the concealer under both eyes that comes with this one because this concealer is just beautiful. So what I do is just dot a little bit on, and if I want to add a little bit more, then that's what I do. So I just start off with a few dots. So I'm going to use this sponge here with this foundation and just start just blending it in, and of course I can smell that fragrance straight away. But as I said, it lingers for a little while, but not for very long. But I happen to love the fragrance. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. So I will build this up to show you how it can be built up. But even if you just put on a sheer type of coverage, it just looks absolutely beautiful. And just what's left on the sponge, I'm just going to put a little bit over my eyelid and also put a little bit under my eye as well. So this foundation is really versatile in the fact that you can make it more of a light towards medium finish and build it up to full coverage. And I will build it up in a minute, but I just want to show you, even though it says that it's full coverage, depending on how you put it on and what you use to put it on with, because a beauty blend does tend to sheer out foundations. You can also make it sheer using a brush as well, but I just think it's a little bit easier using the beauty blender. But just with this amount of coverage, you can just see how beautiful it looks. It's really, really gorgeous. So I'm just going to pop on a little bit more just to show you how this builds up. Now, normally I wouldn't like putting the spatula just straight on my skin like that, particularly with a lot of brands and their products now. They all have preservatives, but some are using the newer type of preservatives and they aren't as good as the old-fashioned robust ones, and they're the ones that La Prairie have in theirs, and that's what makes it last so long as well. So we're just going to build this up. The thing with this is once you start building it up, it doesn't go cakey in any way, and it really just perfects your skin. But you can see it building up, and it is heading towards that full coverage. Now you could get towards that full coverage a lot quicker, of course, if you put more foundation on to begin with, and also quicker as well if you use a brush. But I like building a foundation up fairly slowly. Now I'm not going to put any more of the foundation under my eyes because I want to show you what the concealer is like as well. So that is all built up now, and it just gives, got a hair in the way there, it just gives the most beautiful finish. And I have a lot of really lovely foundations, but these are the ones that I tend to reach for if I've got a special event to go to. I do wear them for my everyday makeup so that it's not wasted because they are so expensive, but they are beautiful if you're just going to an event where you just want that really perfected look on your skin. And as I said, it has got a dewy type of finish, and that's exactly what it has, and it just looks beautiful. Now once I've got both of the foundations on, I will powder it down because I need to with my oily skin, and I will use the La Prairie powder as well. So before I put the concealer on, I'm going to do the other side of my face and use the cushion foundation, and I've got a different beauty blender to put this on, and I just press the beauty blender in a couple of times. It picks up the foundation and just start blending it in. So this one you can have as a very light coverage or light towards medium. I think you can build it up to a fairly good medium coverage. So again, just what's left on the beauty blender, I'm just going to tap that over my eyelid and put some under my eye as well. And because I don't mind pressing it back into the cushion, onto my face and back in again, and that's because of the really good preservatives that they have in here, and I've never had an issue with it. And this still, as I was saying earlier, it goes on just as beautifully as the day I got it. And again, of course, this is fragranced as well. I'd probably say out of the two, the other one that I put on first, the cream one, that's probably has a slightly stronger fragrance than this one. So I'm just going to go back in there again, just a couple more presses, and just build this up really slightly just through here, just to get that medium coverage. So that's with both of the foundations on. So this one's on that side and got the cushion on that side. And with the finish, I don't know whether you'll be able to see on camera, but the cream one has got a bit more of a dewy type of finish compared to the other one, although the other one's not drying in any way. And that's why I think these work not only with my oily skin, but also with normal to dry skin as well. So with the coverage, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer this one on this side, or do you prefer the cushion? Now, because I've had these for such a long time and I've worn them during the day, in the evening, and for up to about 14 hours during the day, I know how both of these wear and how they look as well. I would say that both look really beautiful at the end of the day, but there is one that I do prefer more, and if I had to choose, there's definitely one that I would go for over the other. Which one do you think it is? Do you think it's this one, or do you think it is the cushion? What I'm going to do now is put on some concealer. So we'll go back into this foundation, and what I do is I just pop my finger in, pick up the pigment. You don't need a lot of this, and I just press it in. Now you can also put it on using a brush as well, and sometimes I do that, but once I've finished with the brush, then I always go over using my finger as well, especially when you've got a cream type of concealer. Just with the warmth of your finger, it just helps it all just to meld in. So the coverage on this is, I would say it's a solid medium. I have a little bit of darkness under my eyes through here and also some prominent veins, and I think this does a really good job of covering up. I find this concealer, it doesn't crease throughout the day either. Of course, I will powder over it once it's been sitting on for a couple of minutes. Now you could build it up to more of a full coverage if you wanted to. I tend just to put on a small amount. With a concealer, I like the coverage, but I don't like anything to look mask-like, and I just like to have a minimal amount of product under my eyes. So again, just tapping it through, press it in. And because this concealer is half a shade to, I think, about a shade lighter, then it really just is the perfect concealer. So before I powder under my eyes and the rest of my face, what I'm going to do is take you out into the lounge, and I'm going to show you this in natural light. Right, and it's always good to have a look at a foundation, especially one if you're going to be spending a lot of money, what it looks like under different lighting. So on this side is what I call the cream foundation, the one that comes with the concealer as well. And on this side is the cushion foundation. Now the monitor is a little way from me here, so I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see much of a difference, but up close this side here definitely is more full coverage than this side here. And I also think with this foundation, like I was saying, it does have more of a dewy finish than the side here, but in no way is this side, I wouldn't even describe it as a soft matte. It's probably more closer the side what you would describe as perhaps a satin foundation, but both look really beautiful. So which do you prefer, the side or this side? So now I'll go back into the beauty room, powder under my eyes and the rest of my face. So I've just powdered under my eyes, and I use a different powder under my eyes than I do for the rest of my face. But I have got the Prairie powder here, and this is just beautiful. And you get a huge amount in this. This is 40 grams of product, and it also comes with a travel size as well. And the thing with the travel size is that it's not far off in weight than other brands with their powders in their normal weight. So even, once again, this is really pricey. You do get a lot of product. I've also had this for at least 2 years, and it still works really beautifully. Now this does come with a powder puff. I put this on using a brush, but today I think I'm going to be a little bit extra and use the puff that comes with this. So I just roll the powder puff in there, and then what I do is I just, on the back of my hand, just tap off any excess powder. And what I do with the puff is when I put it on, I just roll it in. So once again, I'm just going to take the puff and dab into the powder and just take the excess off on the back of my hand. And again, just roll that puff over. You can just do this if you want to, but one thing I find with, especially if you do that rolling type of motion, then it really does make your skin look really flawless. And this is a beautiful powder. Again, it is fragranced, but I happen to love the fragrance in this Prairie powder. It's absolutely beautiful. So now that I've got the powder on, it really does look perfected, but I need to wear a powder because of my oily skin. And as I was saying today, it is going to be quite warm. It's starting to get quite warm in the room here. So for this to last all day, I need to powder it. And you do get, as I was saying, a lot of product, even though it is expensive. The other thing with this powder is if you want to take it with you for travel, you can. At the top here, it has a slide, and you can have it so you open it up and shake out the powder you need, and then it's easy just to close down again. So it is, even though it is quite large, it is travel friendly in the fact that if it gets shaken around and you've got that little slide there closed, then you're not going to get powder everywhere. This also has a really generous size mirror in there as well. So with the powder on, the foundation just looks really perfected. Now I have to wear powder because I have oily skin, and if I don't do that, especially today, it's going to be quite warm, then it's just going to get too oily. But I find with this powder I will get that lovely glow back that I had with the foundation, but the powder just helps keep it going from that beautiful glow to a greasy look. So on this side we have this foundation and the cushion on that side. Which one do you prefer? Now that I've only just powdered, both look very, very similar. This one has, I don't know whether you'll be able to see it that well on camera, but I can see that there is that little bit more off coverage. I could have probably even built it up even more. So if you really wanted that full coverage look, then you can certainly get it. But I do like it that you can shear it down if you want to. Both look really, really beautiful. So now off camera, I'm just going to put on the rest of my makeup and then I'll be back. So by the time I put on my makeup and had to do a couple of other things, I've been wearing both of these foundations for at least an hour now. Now, one thing I find with both of the foundations, it's the longer you almost wear them, the more beautiful they become. Now, of course, once you probably get to that, I've worn these quite a few times, it would be probably the 10 to 12 hour mark, they do start to wear off, but they don't go patchy and they just wear off very evenly and they just look really beautiful. So I'll just show you again now that I've got my full face of makeup on. So this side here is with this one, the such a long name, Skin Caviar Concealer and Foundation, which I just call the cream one. That side with the concealer on the top, and this is the cushion foundation. So which one do I prefer? Now they are insanely expensive, these foundations, but in saying that, when they both run out, I will be purchasing both of them again. I would say that probably the cushion will run out before the cream one, and I will purchase them again because I just think they make my skin just look so beautiful. They are so flattering on mature skin and they just work really well with my oily skin as well. Now, if I was buying this as a very special purchase, these last a long time, so you'd be able to save the foundation just for those special occasions and not necessarily for your everyday makeup. As I said earlier in the video, I do reach for these if I've got some more of a special event to go to, but I also, because I don't want to waste it, I also use them for my everyday makeup as well. So out of the two, the one that I would buy if I had to choose between them would be the cushion one. And the reason I like this one is that it has a lighter coverage. There's nothing wrong with the coverage on this one or the finish on it. It's just that this one just has that slightly lighter coverage, which I prefer in a foundation. I like it that it can be light and build towards a medium, and I really like that type of coverage in a foundation. The other thing I like about this is it is super travel friendly as well. Now, not last year, but the year before when I went to the USA for a holiday, this is one of the foundations that I packed because I always know it's going to make, I can put it on in a rush and it's always going to make my skin just look really, really beautiful and also last really well throughout the day. And if you feel like you needed just to top it up, it's easy to do. Say you've been wearing it after a working day, after 8 hours, you just go in, pat a little bit more on, put a little bit more powder on if you want to, and it just looks really gorgeous. So out of the two, the cushion is definitely my favorite out of the two, although both of them are just beautiful. Now, As I've said many times throughout this video, these foundations, they are very, very expensive. So I'm not telling you that you need these foundations. If you can't afford these foundations or it's a bit of a stretch to buy them, then there are plenty of other foundations that give just a beautiful look to the skin. It's just that I think these are just a little bit extra, and because I've had them for such a long time now, at least 2 years, probably coming up towards 3 years, I know they work well with my skin. I don't have to think about whether a foundation is going to work that day. If I'm in a rush putting on a foundation, either one of these is going to look really gorgeous. It's just with that slightly lighter coverage, I just prefer the cushion one. But yes, they are very expensive, so really it just comes down to personal preference. Now, the other thing with these foundations that I didn't really get into very much with this video is the ingredient list. Both of them have quite an extensive ingredient list, and if you want to take a closer look, then you can take a look at the La Prairie website. They really focus on, with both of these foundations, their skincare ingredients, especially that Caviar line. And of course, like I mentioned a few times throughout this video, both do contain fragrance. So that's it for today's video. I would love it if you gave it a like and subscribed, and I will see you next time. Bye.